Welcome to Entrepreneur Conundrum with Virginia Purnell, where growing entrepreneurs share how they get visible online. With Virginia Purnell, where growing entrepreneurs share how they get visible online.
Hey everyone! Today I'm joined again by Laura Patak, author of Stories with Purpose and now Whole, Not Perfect. Last time we talked about storytelling and leadership. This time we're going to explore how imperfection, reflection, and authenticity shape the way we live and lead. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what has changed since our last conversation?
So, Virginia, first of all, thank you for having me again. I'm overexcited about meeting you and meeting your listeners and your viewers and talking about Whole Not Perfect. But what changed? Actually, I did had a realization. And last time we talked about storytelling and the importance of storytelling as a form of connection and connecting people with emotions and really creating those kind of like life long lasting connections with others. And I was talking that time that the two important stories which someone should be aware of, it's your origin story, the story which brought you where you are right now, and the stories you tell to yourself here. After 2 years of living corporate life, and I did an exit 2 years ago, and when I was looking back, I realized that when the business title went off, when the paycheck was not coming anymore, when I didn't have any more a job title, actually I realized that I was in an identity crisis. And now when I'm looking back, I realized I was asking myself two questions. And I said, well, what is exactly that helped me overcome that identity crisis? What are those kind of like anchors and pillars helping me go and get on the other side, go through the crisis and get on the other side? And I realized that each and every of us, we have what I'm calling a unique individual value proposition. And even we are coming so much history and so many stories, and sometimes we try to be perfect. Actually, the fact that we are imperfect makes us beautiful. And we really need to own and to cherish this unique individual value proposition. And everyone is asking me, what exactly is that? And I will outline in very simple terms, and you can ask me questions after that. But I realized that that unique value proposition, there are four unique things to each and every of us. One, I talked in the first book, it's about the story which brought you where you are right now. And for someone who is interested to really outline those kind of aha moments in Whole Not Perfect, this new book, actually, I'm bringing also some tools. I'm bringing a framework which helps them really articulate in a concise way what are those moments. So your origin story is unique to you. The steps, the challenges, the decisions, the actions, very unique to you. The second thing very unique to each and every individual, and I call it the strengths DNA, is that each and every of us, we have a set of top talents which could become strengths as long as we name them, claim them, and aim them. And I give you the examples. For example, my top 5 strengths are I'm a learner, I'm an arranger, I'm a restorative, I'm a responsible, and I'm strategic. And this is not just me saying this, but there is the Gallup-Clifton Strengths, which helps each and every individual to identify those kind of top talents, which comes very natural to you. Maybe you use them already, but you don't know it. Maybe you use some of those properly, some of them you underuse or overuse. And that is the beauty of understanding your individual talents, which could become strengths. So this is the second thing unique to individual. The third thing unique to individuals are our values, our top 5 values. And people are always saying values. What are values? Values are the things which matters the most to us. Either it's friendship, either it's family, either it's loyalty, creativity, courage. We all have those kind of top 5 values, very unique to us, the way how we embody them and we carry them in all our interactions with others, and we would like to see in other people. So those are unique to you, the third element. And the fourth element, and that brings the story to the future, it's about, even if the two of us, we have the same aspiration, let's say to make $1 million, okay? The way how we are going to get there is going to be different, which means that the journey towards your aspiration is going to be unique to you and different than the journey of someone having the same kind of aspiration. So when I realized that, and I realized it like a couple of months back, I realized that this could be the book Whole Not Perfect, but brings into a narrative through stories and of course art poetry, because ultimately I write poetry and that's my love language. It brings to the reader this kind of description of what unique value proposition is, but also it gives some tools and frameworks for everyone to discover their unique value proposition, and through that, being able to reinvent and rediscover themselves. Because when I realized what are my strengths, I reconnected with my values, though I knew and I learned my values way back. I realized I put on paper my aspirations and I become very intentional, talking present tense and having a plan and a strategy to get there. And those are very unique. Therefore, to me, I think this is like a very priceless instrument to everyone who wants to reinvent themselves being in an identity crisis.
So you had talked a little bit about how you had that identity crisis. So when you wrote the first book, was this book already, like, you knew you were already going to write it?
It was very different. So after I wrote Stories with Purpose, I was having an idea about my second book, and the title was like Love Is, very cheesy. The manuscript for the second book has been redefined in June. So everything took a very different shape. I had this kind of aha big realization. I was looking around and I've seen so many people in the same situation like I was 2 years ago. And it's about the innovation, the acceleration of innovation, the technology which is evolving fast, large corporations having many layoffs. And you see people more and more going through that identity crisis, because when they exit an organization, or even if they want to move to another organization, they really need to have that kind of check-in. What is their identity? Are they going to identify themselves with the new job title, with the new responsibilities, with the culture of that organization? But especially for the ones who are having this kind of rough and tough moment, when suddenly out of the blue, the business title is gone, the job description is gone, and you wonder yourself, okay, so who I am without this, and what I'm good at, those questions, they might find an answer in the Whole Not Perfect.
Right. So what do you like most about the work that you're doing now?
What I like the most, of course, this framework of unique value proposition, individual unique value proposition, it translates in some leadership coaching, individual coaching. And what I love the most seeing people, how they engage with themselves, how they become empowered, how they find that kind of motivation to really run for their next aspiration, for their next step in life. Because when they discover their unique value proposition, that is so powerful. I've seen people understanding their strengths and really owning those strengths and understanding how they can put those strengths at work into the next step which they are going to do. I've seen people who are like understanding what are the learnings, not only the learnings, because usually people are saying, oh, what are the learnings which you have from your challenges? That's important. It's important to have your learnings. The big question is how you take those learnings and how you carry those learnings with you to your next experience. It's not that you just learn. You have to take something. Is that yield? I'm calling it the yield, right? How you take that learning forward. And actually, I think when I'm talking with all these people, my satisfaction comes from the fact that they discover not only the learning, but they also understand how they take that learning further, how they put their strengths at work towards their, and they are able to build a plan. From that moment of identity crisis, they have a North Star and they are able to articulate that North Star. And that's amazing because when I went through the identity crisis, that was not easy. It was brutal because you suddenly realize that, oh my God, I don't have the resources which I had before. People around me, they might disappear or vanish because I don't have the title or the power which previously I was given by the title or by the job description or by the name of the company I was working with or for. And therefore, you are not just in an identity crisis, you are by yourself in an identity crisis. So therefore, the empowerment is going to come from you discovering your unique value proposition, because otherwise nobody is going to come and give you a bit of empowerment or motivation unless you drive that yourself. And I'm always saying self-leadership is like this kind of what I'm good at. I know what my purpose is. I know exactly why I can drive myself. I bet my next actions on these strengths. That's self-leadership. Because if you don't do understand self-leadership, the question is how you can lead others.
Do you have a tip for us on how to implement those challenges as we move forward?
The challenge is there are a couple of steps. When you ask yourself the question, what I'm good at, I think that the first step is to really understand what your strengths are. And there is a very simple assessment, 50 years of research behind. It's not something which I was inventing. Gallup invented a long time ago. And when you realize what are those strengths, actually you start, bouncing that to your past challenges. And you understand how you use those strengths. You realize that, oh, okay, so learner is my first strength. Of course I used it because I went through so many challenges, and all the time I flexed my learner strength muscle in order to learn about that topic, in order to be able to understand what is under the hood and how can I problem solve for. In that moment, you also realize as an individual what are those kind of strengths which actually you might not even use, but though you have them. And you are much focused to fix your weaknesses instead of using your strengths. You realize what are the strengths which you might overuse. And I've seen many cases when people, they were really abusing some of the strengths and creating a bit of conflict in relationship with others. So when you realize the way how you use your strengths based on your past, therefore, you start to recalibrate the way how you communicate, recalibrate the way how you engage, recalibrate the way how you think. You start having new behaviors. You understand what are those behaviors which were supporting maybe an over abuse or underuse of one of your strengths, and you start changing a bit. So that is a first step. And the next steps are will bring everyone to a journey where they start to strengthen their identity, to understand identity, image, influence, how to use their strength, and also what impact, the definition, what impact in the future is for each and every of them. So this is the kind of journey which someone could take being in an identity crisis, because strengths are important, redefining your identity is important, the way how you're going to build your image, because you have to rebuild your image. You've been someone labeled by a title, you need to reborn and bring your authentic self into the spotlight. You want to build a business, you really need to understand influence map. Who are those people who can help you to reach where you want to go? And ultimately to really define impact, what impact is for you, having your new identity and betting on your strengths.
How do you help readers or clients begin to move from that perfectionism to wholeness?
I have a very short answer here. Very short answer here. I was a perfectionist my whole life, my whole corporate life. Let's put it like this. My whole corporate life, I was a perfectionist, and I was always seeing weaknesses in almost everything. As long as you want to, as much effort, time, input you put in fixing a weakness, that weakness is not going to become a strength. On top of that, you're going to waste a lot of time. I think what I learned that understanding what your strengths are, you double down, you maximize your strengths in order to climb the wall and compensate for some of the weaknesses you have, or perfection. Actually, whomever is talking about perfection, they want to do things a bit like better. And usually you are already doing things better. You try to fix some of the things which sometimes you should also prioritize. Are they important or not? But what I learned that sometimes imperfections makes us much more authentic. My English language is not perfect. I'm an Eastern European. But the message which I'm sending is important with all my imperfect English. I might stumble, but that's authentic me. And that is part of who I am, and I own it. I do a mistake. I own it. I learn from it. But it doesn't mean that second time when I'm doing the same mistake, I'm going to say, no, I own it again. I learn from it. And I learn also the way how to not repeat it. And to me, all those kind of, I would say, scars which someone has from past challenges, a broken heart. Maybe you are coming from an imperfect relationship and you are coming with a broken heart, but you learn how to mend it. That's a beautiful scar which you carry with you, but that makes you more beautiful and more authentic. And you learn how to handle yourself in a next situation, in a next relationship. And to me, I think that we are all imperfect creatures. We just need to acknowledge that and to understand what are those imperfections which we can carry, honorable, authentic, and what are those imperfections which only us we think that are imperfections, because maybe the rest of the world might think that there are nothing.
Or strengths.
Or strengths, exactly.
And like all of our experiences and all of our imperfections or whatever, that's what makes us us. Like,
Exactly.
That's what makes us our whole person, our authentic person, right? But it doesn't, those mistakes or things, like it doesn't define us as a person though either. But it's all of it together that makes us a whole person.
Absolutely agreeing with you here. I have so many faults. Like as a person, I have so many faults. Sometimes I lose patience over things. Sometimes I'm overthinking. Sometimes I feel that I have entrepreneurship, 2 years of entrepreneurship. Don't ask me how many times I thought that I'm not enough for what I'm doing, that I don't give enough value, that my message is not good enough. I thought about everything. But all the time, I said to myself, I said, whatever message I'm having to the world, it comes from my unique experience and from a perspective which I'm bringing. And if is going to serve 0.0001%, it's good enough for me. It might not be the perfect message or the perfect sentence to someone, which maybe it's much more like having different strengths than me, being in a very different stage in life, having more experience than me, but it's going to reach that person who really needs it. That doesn't make me imperfect. I think it makes me courageous, right? So to me, sometimes we really need to think that every little act of courage to be out there, to have that tough conversation, even if you don't like it, to really bring your perspective to the table, even imperfect, to speak to an organization, to speak to a partner, to speak to a student in your own terms, not trying to improvise and become bubbly, just being authentic you, that is your perfection. This is how you are perfect.
Perfectly imperfect, right?
Perfectly imperfect. It's as simple as that.
All right. So your book blends the poetry, reflection, and frameworks. You already mentioned that poetry is your love language, but why was that mix important for you?
The poetry, what poetry is important for me, or
Just
let me
the
understand.
mix, the
Oh, the
mix that
mix.
you have in the book.
I think all my books, they have this kind of mix. I think poetry is my love language, but it's also the language when I was first time able to express my emotions. And that happened long time ago, like 16, afraid of people understanding my emotions and, introverted. I put everything, I was journaling and I encrypted everything in metaphor, being afraid that someone will understand how I feel and understand my deep thoughts. So poetry becomes very handy for me as a language where I can express emotions and I can express depth in a very concise way. The reason why I always add the stories behind the poems is because those stories, being framed using different frameworks, can create that kind of like white space for people to think about their own experiences, similar experiences, or maybe they reflect on a certain angle which might not be that transparent from the poem. And what this book brings differently than the previous one, it brings three frameworks. It's three storytelling frameworks. One is the story framework, exactly as it is, like as it sounds written. And this is the framework, the lenses that help you slow down inside and bring out that kind of single moment where actually you can really see clearly what an experience brought to you. After that, I have the real framework, and the real framework, it helps you link your talents, your strengths with your experiences. And after that, I have the dream framework. It's a storytelling framework again, which helps you anchor your aspirations in present tense. And I think what is different than the previous book is it's not just that it's inspirational, but it gives you the practicality of tools that helps you not only having the space, but really start thinking and drawing for yourself what are your strengths, what are your values, what aspirations you want to put out there. And you might find the strengths helping you to achieve it.
Who do you think's an ideal reader for this book?
An ideal reader for this book, I think it could be anyone who wants to prevent an identity crisis, anyone who wants to really understand their individual unique value proposition, I think this is a responsibility. It's not anymore just a nice to have. And especially when you understand what is the value you carry with you every day in life, what is the value which you could bring to others through that value, that's extremely empowering and motivational for each and every individual. Either you are someone at the beginning of your career and you really want to understand what are your strengths and how you can enhance your image, your influence, how you can create impact through that unique value proposition. Either you are someone like me going to an identity crisis, I think that this book is for both categories.
Perfect. What's the best advice that you've received about embracing imperfection or wholeness?
Wow. Oh, the best advice. The best advice. Actually, the best advice came, if I'm not mistaken, writing this book from my publisher. And I was going, I think, at the third iteration of the manuscript after the big changes. And he told me exactly like this. He said, you shouldn't be afraid of being imperfect because your voice is what it matters. And because I was like, oh, so this title, you know, when it's like your baby, you want to have the most beautiful baby, right?
Thank you
Like,
so much for joining
like,
us
and
today.
I was
Be
like,
sure
oh
to
my God,
subscribe
yes,
and leave
let's
some
do
love
that.
through a
And
review.
at one
And
moment,
I'll
at
catch
the
you on the
third
next episode.
iteration, he said, you know what? It's all not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect because your voice is what it matters. And I was like, oh, yes. But it's so important that sometimes you have someone around you reminding you about it, because it's very easily to fall into this kind of like perfection. I said, yes, it's my voice and everything, all the messages and all the stories, they are so insightful. Ultimately, people, they really need to understand the message to get into the depth of the content. And yeah, maybe I might be having a bit of a mistake. Definitely not a grammar mistake, but hey, that's whole, not perfect.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So my publisher said, stop, like just going around all these kind of details. Your voice is what it matters.
What's the best advice you've given others about finding purpose and impact?
Oh, I had recently, because, you know, best advice, it's like, yeah, but recently I had a very interesting conversation about leadership and reinvention. And we were talking about the book, and someone was asking me, I see that you are talking about this kind of self-leadership, right? And I said, yes, self-leadership, it's about having this responsibility to understand your identity, your value, but also to really understand how you use that in order to build towards your image, to be able to influence and create impact. And I think that is self-leadership. And at one moment, it just came out and like this, and the whole audience was like, oh, actually, she's right. I said, if you consider yourself a leader and a leader in an organization, it's always, you need to have this foresight to understand what comes next, to be able to reinvent, to be nimble with uncertainty, to be very versatile, right? And how you can lead with versatility, with all this kind of like uncertainty, if you don't know how to reinvent yourself. And that's self-leadership for me. So what I said, leadership starts with self-leadership. Because without understanding how you can reinvent yourself, how you can believe that you can help reinvent others or reinvent a business? So that was a bit of the, not advice, but it was like I was thinking and I said, yeah, because I think each and every of us, if you think also about yourself, Virginia, you reinvented yourself, I think, many times in life, right? You reinvented your business. And this kind of reinventing, think about technology nowadays, like AI is really pushing us to reinvent the way how we lead, to reinvent the way how we look into processes, to reinvent things, to transform, to reiterate. But that comes with a lot of change, and how you can reinvent, how you can lead people through change unless you understand self-leadership and you reinvent yourself. You change your perspective. You understand what it means. You understand, you have the foresight for what is upcoming.
What would you like to share that we haven't talked about yet around maybe a story or takeaway from Whole Not Perfect that you hope listeners can carry with them?
Well, well, there is a very bold story. One thing which I realized, and I realized that when you are going through this identity crisis or you are going through this kind of big change, you lose many people on the way, many friendships. And there are these kind of relationships which they simply disappear. But there are also those kind of relationships that stays with you no matter what. And I was very surprised to see who are those people. And I had some unexpected surprises. People who recently I was like thinking about a new word, which is not friendship, it's bondship. And bondship, it's about people who resonate with you when we are talking vision, when we are talking experiences, when we are talking important life-changing stories. And these are not the people with whom you are having a Sunday brunch, but they are present and they know how to come and to tell you that they see you and they feel you, and you say the same back to them. So to me, if I'm taking one big learning out of this experience, is that I realize that bondship is also very important, because you connect with people on those kind of things which are important in the moment, and they help you, they hear you, they listen to you, even if they are not in the proximity. And that bondship could become a friendship, but most of the old friendships, they faded away. There is a very nice poem with a very, I would say, very bold title in the book. It's called Abracadabra Bitches. Like, it's transformation, abracadabra, magic is happening. So and it talks about this story about that in an identity crisis, you realize the bondships which you have, the bondships which will become friendship as long as you put the energy. And you also realize that you are losing a lot of friendships.
Well, were they really? Well, I guess every friendship has its season. I was going to say, like, were they really friendships, though, if they're not sticking around? But it could have just been for the season.
Yes. And you know, I'm always thinking that in this life, people are coming into your life, people are getting out from your life. It's free border. You don't need a passport.
Right?
You don't need a passport. It's like free border. But I think that the other thing I strongly believe in is that every person coming into your life is teaching you something. And after they teach you something, they could leave. But there are also those kind of relationships which you are like, they've been with you for so long, and when they suddenly they fade away, you have a feeling of like, why that happens. But maybe the reason is because they taught me everything which I needed. I gave back the same, And that's okay. You know,
Mhm.
that's okay. You have to really go through the feelings and to the emotions, and that's okay. And maybe when they're gonna come back, if they're gonna come back, maybe we are going to have something else to teach each other.
Yep. Might come back. So thank you, Laura, very much for coming back and being with us and sharing the message of Whole, Not Perfect. Where can we grab your book?
So we have a surprise for your listeners and viewers. The Kindle book is going to have a countdown sale between March 26th and March 31st. And I know that this episode is going to air before that. So I encourage everyone to go and find the book Whole Not Perfect on Amazon. Kindle edition, very, very low countdown sale. And for your listeners and viewers, as I said at the beginning, they will also benefit for having Stories with Purpose PDF edition to download, and in this way to have the both pieces, the stories and the origin plus the Whole Not Perfect in their hands, and that will be a very nice spring present for everyone, I believe.
Thank you very much. So we go to Kindle for the sale, the special sale for March 26th through 31st. Where do we go to get the Stories with Purpose, your first book?
I'll be sending you the link, which you can
So
have
just-
in the comments of the podcast, and that will be the easy tool to download the hybrid PDF format.
Perfect. So we'll have it in the show notes for everyone. Well, thank you again, Laura.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Virginia. I'm super excited. Actually, you are the first with whom I'm talking about Whole Not Perfect. And it's going to be, I hope that is going to be a very good present for your listener and viewer. So yes, thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to see the comments, to see what are the takeaways from the podcast, and to see exactly what resonated from all our discussion to anyone. And even if it's 0.1%, I think that, we are going to take it, because we are not perfect. We are just whole.
Exactly. I'm interested to see them too.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much, Virginia. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe and leave some love through a review. And I'll catch you on the next episode.